Hey everybody, it's Matt from LolKing.net here on the first day of the semifinals. We're here at the Galen Center. We've got a little bit of a venue change. I'm here with Will Meteos Hartman, jungler for C9. Will, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really well.
You're doing really well? Cool. How have you been enjoying? Actually, we're right in between the games for the last game. So right now, Najin Blacksword, SKT T1 are 2-2 right now, and you guys have been, a lot of players in the lounge behind us anyway have been just kind of like watching the games, commenting, that kind of stuff. So, why don't you just talk a little bit about like what you've kind of enjoyed seeing here today?
Okay, well, these games have been a lot cooler than I thought they'd be. I think everyone sort of expected Najin to get just 3-0'd by SKT, and they were actually up 2-1 in the first 3 games. And I still think SKT is going to win the last game just because they've sort of looked more solid over the series. Granted, they've lost a couple games, but that happens to everyone. And they seem to have diagnosed a problem being Nagne's Gragas, which has really carried them through the entire series. And he hasn't looked as strong on other champions, so we're going to have to see what they can do in the last game.
One of the things that we're seeing, especially with that Gragas, is the entirety of the group stage was like Gragas was a bit of a curse. It was like you play Gragas, your team seems to be losing anyway. So like, it almost seems like Gragas is a necessity for AP carries to pick now because they're just getting completely banned out of their rest of the champions. Zed, Kassadin, a lot of other the kind of bursty mages are just being completely banned out. So as a player, how does it feel when like your comfort picks are just completely being banned out and you're forced onto something that you may not be as happy about?
Well, it really sucks when you get banned out. I think most pros sort of have a good enough champion pool that they can't be banned out fully. Their 4th, 5th, 6th picks sometimes aren't really their best champions, obviously, because you're not likely to play them unless everyone knows you're the team's like weak link in terms of champion pool, and then you'll probably get banned out a lot. But yeah, everyone's a little uncomfortable on those champions, and it makes it harder. But usually, if you're the one getting banned out, your teammates are all on their like first tier champions, and you're getting really good picks elsewhere. So normally, you can just get carried.
I think that's something that is actually really true in this series of games, particularly because like since so much focus is being put on the mid lane, especially after Faker's group stages, that kind of stuff, the general that hype coming in on Faker anyway, we're getting to see like top jungle, bottom lane just kind of get whatever they want. Is that something you kind of agree with?
Well, Najin Sword's bot lane's actually been getting banned out a lot. They've been banning like Twitch and Thresh against them.
Yeah, okay.
And it was kind of weird for me. Going into this game, everyone was saying that Prey and Kayn were just going to, dump on Piglet and Pumandu, which I always thought was weird because they didn't look that much stronger than them. And in this series, we've kind of been seeing Pumandu and Piglet just destroy them every single game bot lane, despite everyone thinking that that's where Najin Sword's strength would be coming from. So I think people got a wrong read on that. And then, I guess going back to your Gragas question, that's just a really, really skill-reliant champion. He might be one of the hardest AP mids in the game to play successfully just because he's such a weird champion. There's not much like him. He's got sort of all of his abilities are skill shots for one, and he has long cooldowns, and he's melee, and one of his abilities involves getting in there, and the other one's like a huge AoE knockback with a delayed like throw timer. So like his whole kit's just really hard to use, but Nagne's been playing him like almost flawlessly, just really, really carrying on him. I don't think I've seen a Gragas carry that hard.
Especially like when you're playing Elise, people kind of rag on missed cocoons a lot, missed skill shots. So it's kind of interesting to think about it from the Gragas perspective anyway, because we see a lot of missed barrels, and missed explosive barrels are like barrels that knock people in ways that you can't really predict. But like you were saying, very kind of chaos-based champion almost. You have to kind of get everything really specific. Are there any champions like that in the jungle? I can't really think of that at the moment.
Well, I guess Lee Sin's one of the closest to that because he's really relying on hitting your Qs early game to, sort of get all of his damage because that's what people max. And he's not as all in his Gragas, but yeah, a lot can be swung by a Lee Sin Q missing in the early game. So I guess he's the closest there is to that.
And especially like ward jumping, like of course you're probably a lot better at ward jumping than I am, but that's always one of those things that it just comes down to pure mechanics, and if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah, I don't play Lee Sin too much because I don't know. I've never really valued him that highly because my playstyle is a lot different. I don't really go for as much early game all-ins as other teams do with their junglers, and it's just really a difference in style. I think both ways are fine to play, but I just haven't really gotten to Lee Sin that much.
So kind of going off that different style of jungling comment, we saw Bengi play Aatrox, which is something that we've seen a lot of like in Europe, and then we're seeing like it creeping into Korean play anyway. Drew some bans. I believe in the first game they actually banned it. It didn't really work out for them. Do you kind of have any idea why?
Well, I actually missed the beginning of the game because I was walking around and I sort of got swarmed by fans asking me for autographs and stuff. So I was taking some pictures. I didn't see the very beginning of the game, but I saw he was really behind. He was like level 4 at 8.5 minutes when he was giving blue to his mid laner. And Aatrox is one of those champions that's very, very snowbally. He's either going to just take over a game through the early game because he's like probably the strongest level 3 duelist ever. He's just really good. He's really good at diving. So he definitely has his strengths, but he's one of those champions that if you get behind, he's not going to be very useful because his utility is limited. He's got a decent slow, and his knockup's okay, but he'll never really do the damage or anything. So, yeah, it didn't really work out for them. They didn't get the early lead that they needed for it to work.
And that kind of seems like one of those things that we've been noticing about Sword anyway, is that if they're ahead, and they can win a game if they get their snowball kind of going. But especially in the last game, if they fall behind in kills, they just don't seem capable of bringing it back whatsoever. So do you think that's something that SKT is going to be taking advantage of in the next game?
Well, yeah, I think that just goes down to SKT being a stronger team overall. Even in the games that Sword has won, it's been really an uphill battle. When they're up 4K gold, they're still going even in fights and slowly getting advantages just through being ahead. But then you see when SKT's winning, they're really winning. They take that 4K advantage and it's 10K 5 minutes later. So it looks like SKT's been playing more solid. The way I sort of look at it is usually in a series like this, I sort of view SKT as the better team, and the better team usually, sometimes they'll lose games through making a few big mistakes, but then the other team usually makes a lot of smaller mistakes, and it really just comes down to, with more games, it sort of evens out to the better team winning most of the time. And granted, the last game hasn't happened, but I still predict SKT will win. So they look stronger.
Yeah, so kind of distilling that down a little bit, it's better to be consistent if you're winning or you're losing, because at least you're making one big mistake that might be a little easier to fix, as opposed to a lot of little ones that may add up over time.
Yeah, like the big mistakes might be not banning a certain champion or like not accounting for a roam. Like in the OMG versus Royal game, I kind of looked at it the same way. OMG looked more solid, but Royal just made some better calls. Like, for example, in the first game when they roamed Renekton down bot, they did not see that coming. Like, I wouldn't see that coming. That was a really smart play. They got a tower dragon and blue buff for just a tower, and those are really good plays. But then it's not really a mechanical thing. That's a strategical thing, which is a lot bigger. You still see a lot of instances like in that game where Vlad would try to all-in someone and they got away with 1 health, which just comes down to mechanics, like not fully understanding how much damage you'll deal. And that's just a smaller mistake, just mechanics sort of.
I think it's really interesting that the game is that deep anyway, where you can categorize your mistakes into different ways and analyze them appropriately. Just kind of wrapping up the interview, you were saying that you were taking photos and kind of getting mobbed by fans, and I was out there as well, and it's kind of interesting that there's kind of the lobby of the Galen Center anyway, and then each pro has their own pocket and crowd surrounding. So what's the fan response been like anyway for you specifically?
It's been really cool. I've met a lot of people here, a lot of NA fans. A lot of people just wishing me luck next season. Didn't get too many people harping on why we lost to EU, which was kind of nice because, yeah, it sucked. But we don't really care about it that much, I guess. We're moving forward. Not really going to harp on it. So it's been a lot of good support. A lot of cool fans.
Did kind of, I saw a tweet anyway by you after Tombe's speech where he was yeah, Meteos is one of the best junglers in the world kind of thing. Did that kind of help, salve that wound a little bit?
Yeah, it did, because Fnatic's a really good team. I still think we could beat them. I think it really could have just went either way. They definitely outplayed us in the series, but that's not to say we couldn't beat them in another series. So, yeah, it helps hearing things from other players, just helping the less experienced players, sort of understand the game. And yeah, it's nice to hear good things from other players about our team.
That's actually something other players kind of segues into my kind of last question anyway, is we're sitting in the players lounge right now, and of course you guys can't see it on this side of the camera, but there are pros from every team pretty much here, NA, EU, some Chinese and Korean teams are still here. And one of the interesting things that I've found anyway, sitting and watching, is that there's you, Kaok, Skara, just sitting on a couch, kind of doing little bits of live commentary on the game. So is that kind of a way of learning and kind of just conversing with your fellow pros anyway, or just getting to think about the game in a different way?
Yeah, it is kind of like that. Everyone sort of has their own view on how to play the game. And when you watch something a lot of times someone will be like, oh, that was so stupid, but then someone else could explain it a little bit, be like, oh, no, well, it kind of looks stupid, but in reality they were doing something else that you just couldn't really notice. So you definitely do get different viewpoints, and a lot of times it's just people sort of, comparing their viewpoints on the game.
Is being able to kind of open your mind and kind of accept new perspectives, is that like a really good skill for a pro player to have?
Yeah, it is. Being open-minded is huge because in a game where there's so many people, you're not going to be right 100% of the time. You're going to be wrong a lot. And just knowing how to set aside your ego and just, keep trying to learn the game. There's always going to be people better than you, and there's always more you can learn.
But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can at LolKing.net. Give us a subscribe on YouTube. That would also help us a lot. You can follow Meteos on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
It's Meteos LOL.
That really helps. And if you guys just want to check out all the rest of the covers that we're doing, we're going to be here all through finals and everything like that. Again, thank you, Meteos, for talking to us so much.
Yep, thanks.